Okay, we're going to talk about India expelling the Canadian diplomat from Canada as the Sikh murder row escalates. Okay, this is big drama. Big drama in the Indian Canada relations.
Has expelled a senior Canadian diplomat as relations between the two countries worsen over allegations by the Canadians that Indian agents might have been involved in the murder of a Canadian Sikh activist. Hardeep Singh Nijjar was shot dead outside a temple in British Columbia less than 3 years after he was designated a terrorist by India. A statement from the Indian Foreign Ministry described the allegations they'd been behind his death as absurd and motivated. Earlier, the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau told Parliament he'd raised the issue with his Indian counterpart Narendra Modi at the recent G20 summit.
Over the past number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Canada is a rule of law country. The protection of our citizens and defense of our sovereignty are fundamental. Our top priorities have therefore been, one, that our law enforcement and security agencies ensure the continued safety of all Canadians, and two, that all steps be taken to hold perpetrators of this murder to account. Canada has declared its deep concerns to the top intelligence and security officials of the Indian government. Last week at the G20, I brought them personally and directly to Prime Minister Modi in no uncertain terms.
Let's go live now to Mumbai, where we can speak to our South Asia correspondent, Yogita Lamaya. Yogita, thank you so much for joining us. Just remind us of the details of this case, the background to it.
So Hardeep Singh Nijjar was shot dead on the 18th of June by two masked gunmen outside a Sikh temple in the Canadian province of British Columbia.
It's wild that, like, I guess the more material conditions improve in, like, these other nations that have been aligned with the Western world, the more they recognize that they can just, like, kind of get away with doing unhinged shit. And the more you see stuff like this, where, like, India's, like, pulling a Saudi Arabia here, kind of, where they're like, yeah, no, what are you going to do? We're we are your China, you know? Like, I don't know how to describe it other than they can kind of get away. I mean, I don't know if they can be able to get away with this in America. I guess they possibly could. I cover Indian news on my Twitch channel, and many people in this chat can vouch for me my take. It's very likely that the Modi government is behind this 100%. The reason is the guy was a Sikh separatist sympathizer that left India. That being said, what India did is completely unjustifiable whatsoever. Also, India wasn't super aligned with the Western world because they're also very aligned with Russia. No, India is utilizing their India is making the most out of this opportunity by, maximizing on good energy deals that they can get with Russia. They get to live the best of both worlds in this situation. India as a economic engine, in my opinion, and I might be wrong on this, is seemingly the neoliberal alternative to China's communist influence, right? In the eyes of the American government, in the eyes of, like, imperialist forces, they look at India and they go, all right, we have China on the one hand, and that's a terrifying prospect. We have India on the other, who is, like, a growing, developing economy, and they are much more favorably aligned with our interests. But India, much like, I guess, Turkey in some respects, is basically enjoying the best of both worlds in this circumstance, because they are seen as, like, the neoliberal, massively developing nation that a lot of people want to make money off of. And by that, I mean, like, every Western capitalist wants to make money off of the Indian market. Okay? They get to enjoy the best of both worlds in that situation, where they can have decent relations with Russia and take advantage of that. The West needs India to keep buying Russian gas and oil to pretend they're not violating their own sanctions, so India realizes they can get away with more and more shit. Yeah. He was a terrorist who was supported by Canada. There are a lot of videos of that guy training other Khalistani terrorists with AK-47s. Okay, so I guess you could just like assassinate someone then. Got it. Like that's nuts. As far as I understand it, the current Indian government has no love for anyone that is not just a Modi supporter, whether it be Muslims, the massive purges that have occurred against Muslims in India. You have to be Hindu, you have to be Hindu and be engaged in some level of Hindu nationalism. No good grace is allowed for Muslims. No good grace is allowed for Sikhs. Not all Sikhs are Khalistanis, please. I thought this would be a non-story. I thought so too, but let's continue.
He was a prominent Sikh leader and he publicly campaigned for a separate homeland for Sikhs in the Punjab region of India. Now, that's the reason why India had issues with him, with everyone who's a part of this movement called as the Khalistan movement, which is campaigning for the separate homeland. India sees it as a challenge to its territorial integrity and its sovereignty. And it's this has been one of the big reasons why ties between Canada and India have been strained for a while now. We saw that here at the G20 summit, frosty ties between the two countries. Justin Trudeau didn't attend the president's dinner for all of the heads of state and heads of government who were here. And even during his meeting, the photograph of him with Prime Minister Modi, lots of analysts looking at that said that it showed, it displayed, just how frosty those ties have become.
It's important to note, isn't it, that Canada has a very sizable population of Sikhs, and that this is potentially why India would have looked towards the activities in Canada with the focus that it has done.
That's right. And India today in its statement is accusing Canada, saying that the statement that Prime Minister Trudeau is making is an attempt to shift focus from long-standing concerns that India has had of people residing in Canada, indulging in what India describes as anti-India activities. Of course, in addition to
the CBC video on the Khalistan movement in BC, Trudeau's just mad at India because he's sick. Yeah. He is. He's secretly, simultaneously Cuban and also sick at the same time.
India is emerging as a new world superpower.
India will be the third largest economy soon.
Canada and India have an active extradition treaty, probably an important note for the story. Yeah, but as far as I understand, India tried to get Hardeep Singh Nijjar, but they refused to. They refused to give him. But I assume that there is more details to that story. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's allegations against India in connection with the killing of wanted Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar in June has sparked fresh tensions between the two countries. Trudeau on Monday said that there could be a link between the agents of the Indian government and Nijjar's killing. His statement led to the expulsion of an Indian diplomat from Canada. Nijjar, the chief of Khalistan Tiger Force, was shot dead outside of Gurdwara by two unidentified assailants. According to the Global, Nijjar moved to Canada in 1997 using a fake passport. His refugee claim was rejected, following which he married a woman who sponsored him for immigration, which too was rejected. Later, Trudeau referred to him as a Canadian in the House of Commons, the Global reported. Okay, well, I guess he's Canadian then. He was declared a designated terrorist by India in 2020. According to the security agencies, Nijjar was actively involved in recruiting and training people for the banned terrorist outfit, KTF. He was also a part of the separatist outfits for Sikhs for Justice, which held a Khalistan referendum on September 10th. Over the years, India has had several times communicated its concerns about Nijjar's links to terrorist activities. Abi kafayı yiyeceğim ya. Sorup duruyor gerizekalı hala. Mülteşerle ilgili konuşur musun? Mülteşerle ilgili konuşur musun? Sikeceğim ama belanı ha. Yeter ha, Allah Allah. Konuşmuyoruz şu anda onunla ilgili. Başka bir şeyden bahsediyorum bütün sabah. Allah Allah. Ne alaka? Amına koyayım, nereden geliyorsunuz yani? Nereden? Anyway. Over the years, India had several times communicated its concerns about Nijar's links to terrorist activities. In 2018, former Punjab Chief Minister Captain Amarinder Singh handed over a list of wanted persons to Justin Trudeau with Nijar's name included. Then in 2022, the Punjab police sought the extradition as he was wanted in cases relating to spreading terrorism in the state. He was wanted in several cases, including the 2007 blast that killed 6 and injured 42 in the city of Ludhiana in Punjab. In 2010, the Punjab police filed a case against the Khalistani terrorist for his alleged role in the bomb blast near the temple in Patiala. UK-based Paramit Singh Pamma, another wanted terrorist, was one of the main accused in the case. In 2015, another case was filed against Nijar and his alleged role in targeting Hindu leaders, and yet another case was lodged against him in 2016 pertaining to his alleged involvement in the training and funding of Mandeep Dhaliwal and hashing a conspiracy to kill Hindu leaders. A lookout circular and red corner notice were also issued against them. But I guess the Canadian government was like, nope, he's Canadian. We're protecting him. I don't really know why. The nations that chase and neutralize his enemies, even on foreign lands, are feared and admired by everyone. Israel is a fine example. Very happy and proud to see my country in the same league. Dude, yo, India is crazy, dude. They're going bananas mode a little bit. They're getting nutty with it. I mean, this is literally what I would expect from like an Israeli, like a Israeli far right hyper nationalist. You know what I mean? Who would be like, yes, we executed someone on U.S. soil. What the fuck are you gonna do about it? Type shit. It's pretty wild. Modi's India is fast replicating Israel and how it views itself as a global bastion of progressivism, when in fact it's where fascistic Hindutva violence is systematized to repress minorities at home and is also exported wherever it pleases to eliminate those deemed threats to it. This is pretty wild. This is wild stuff. It's like when Saudi Arabia threatened to 9/11 Canada for talking shit. Yeah, I know. Canada catches a lot of L's from like America's supposed allies. Okay. You underestimated the prevalence of Hindutva, Hindu nationalism amongst common people. Wait, what do you mean underestimated? No, I don't think it's underestimated at all. The topic of Khalistan is way more nuanced than many Indian chatters are trying to make it out to be. No one is defending the Khalistan movement. Also, you don't understand how crazy Indian news gets. I could melt every chatter's brains with some of the headlines. We've seen some of them. They do get nutty with it over there. You have no idea about Indian history and the ground reality. You are looking at the issue through a Western lens. If you're interested and want to know more, come to India and investigate the real issue. These separatist movements are funded mostly by Pakistan. And one more thing, the Khalistani never asked for the Pakistan side Punjab. They only want the Indian side Punjab. Come to India to investigate. Brother, I haven't even said anything like out of pocket. You know what I mean? Beyond just like basic shit. Like if the way I'm looking at this is not dissimilar to like if China were to just like assassinate some fucking guy in Canada, okay? And they were like, sorry, this guy is a Uyghur separatist, okay? And we assassinated him. Like that would lead to an insane like collapse of the current order, okay? And my analysis in that situation, despite the fact that I'm, Xi's top soldier and the biggest China simp, would be quite similar to this. And it's not like I have love for the BJP in general. Also, you jumped the gun here. Trudeau is alleged but provided zero proof. Also lied in Congress that the guy was Canadian. This is a really funny take, though, because it's like, brother, if the head of immigration and like the head of the nation is saying that the guy is Canadian, then he's fucking Canadian. You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, why do you, a guy in fucking India, claim to know more about this dude's immigration papers than the motherfucker who's in the government? Like, what are you saying? Like, that is a wild fucking take, dude. Okay? That's actually a wild take. It's like, nah, man, Justin Trudeau is lying. Like, what do you mean he's lying? It's like one of those situations where I feel like if Trump says a classified document while he's president is now declassified, it's fucking declassified. Like he's the president. You know what I mean? Also, let's say he's not a Canadian citizen, okay? let's say he's full-blown Indian, okay, and he's just like illegally living inside of Canada. Does that allow the Indian government to assassinate him? Like, what the fuck? What is this take? What the absolute fuck is that take, man? Just really reconsider what you're saying, just for like a brief moment, okay? Also, really reconsider that I forgot to run the top of the hour ad break originally when I got fucking jebaited by the chat. Yeah, here's the Minister of Immigration for Canada confirming he got a citizenship in 2015. Meanwhile, people are like, nope, doesn't matter. That's not real. Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship. I can confirm that Hardeep Singh Nijjar became a Canadian citizen on March 3rd, 2015. I hope this dispels the baseless rumors that he was not a Canadian. And motherfuckers are like, nah, he's lying, dude. Although the assassination shouldn't have remotely happened, India claims Canada provides shelter to Khalistani terrorists, and most Punjabis don't even want Khalistan, only a few ones funded by different groups. Yeah, I feel like, first of all, I'm just going to say that these guys, they have kind of a cool, graphic design is my passion vibe going here, okay? Also, it says Khalistan Tiger Force, but the fucking thing is a lion. What's happening there? Why is the logo a lion and not a tiger if it's the Khalistan Tiger Force? That part is really interesting. I don't know what happened there. Collab with ArunAnnow. I will. I'm gonna call you in a second if you wanna talk. Just send me a DM on Discord and I'll bring you in. Okay. Here you go.
Can you guys hear me?
Everyone can hear you, but I think there was a little bit of an echo at first. Hold up.
I'm lowering my volume right now.
No, it's all, you're good now. Hold on. Let me.
You want me to turn on my camera or not? Nah?
Yeah, turn on your camera. I'm gonna turn it on in here, so that, and then pop it out. There it is. All right, turn on your camera as well.
What's up, dude? How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Nice beanie.
Thank you. Got the idea from a certain streamer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The impact that I've had on online discourse is pretty devastating. All right,
is.
So tell us a little bit about
horrifying.
tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, what you do, and then we'll get to talking about India.
Yeah, so no problem. So my name is ArunAnnow. For those of you who don't know, by the way, ArunAnnow, Anno is literally older brother in Tamil. So even
really?
my name, yeah, Anna is literally older brother in Tamil.
That's sick.
So it's the same exact concept as Hasanabi.
Okay, love that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
so
fire.
It's literally like I've marketed myself as like the Indian version of you, literally.
Okay.
Okay.
Hopefully your Indian haters are not as vicious as my American hog haters.
They're worse. They're worse.
Okay.
They're absolutely fucking worse.
All right. So let's talk about it. So
Sure.
Give us a little bit of background on the Khalistan independence movement and what is going on, who Hardeep Singh Nijjar was. Am I saying that right?
I don't speak Punjabi, so I can't really 100% estimate like what that guy's name is. But so the Khalistan movement in India was a separatist movement, largely in Indian-controlled Punjab, and the idea behind the Khalistan movement was that there were a bunch of Sikhs that wanted to basically separate from India. That's the overall gist of it. And it's because Sikhs are actually considered a separate religion from the majority Hindus. So even though Sikhs are a dharmic religion in much the same way that like they borrow a lot of their principles from Hindu like religion, it is actually quite separate from they borrow a lot of ideas from Islam. There are some tenets that are totally different. There are some tenets that are totally different between Hinduism and Sikhism, such as like Sikhism outright, saying no caste whatsoever. But the overall idea is that these Sikhs wanted to separate from the Indian government because they weren't being given enough autonomy. And so some people within this movement basically turned to militancy. And this ultimately culminated in a head called Operation Blue Star, which is where the Indian government actually raided the Harmandir Sahib, which is the holiest like site in Sikhism. It's the Golden Temple that you've heard of, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is the leader at the time, I forget his name already, but the leader of the Khalistan movement at the time was being housed there, and a lot of his followers were trying to protect him from the Indian, from the Indian government, which at this point was headed by Indira Gandhi, the head of the Congress Party. So that ultimately ended up in a head, and so ever since that, there have been like back and forth clashes. There's been a massive tension between a lot of the Sikhs in Canada, the UK, and a lot of the Commonwealth. Bhindranwale, thank you. Bhindranwale. So Bhindranwale was the original Khalistani separatist that wanted a separate Sikh state, and he wanted basically not just Punjab but like the Punjab region controlled by India, so that included Haryana as well as Himachal Pradesh, to be completely separated from India, because he wanted to create his own, basically sort of Sikh state, right? He wanted to do that. And so what ended up happening was this all, like I said, it ended up in a head in Indian Punjab. Operation Searchlight, sorry, not Searchlight, Operation Blue Star happens. The Indira Gandhi government sends in basically the army to storm the temple. Several, I believe, thousands of civilians die as a result of that. And as a result, what ends up happening is a lot of those people that were more sympathetic to the Khalistani movement flee to countries like what happened this year. This happened in 1984.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was some of those people left India, they fled India, and then they came to Canada, they came to the UK and other Commonwealth countries. And so what ended up ultimately happening was India had more or less strained relations with Canada ever since then, because the Indian state apparatus the Indian state apparatus currently views countries like Canada, New Zealand, Australia, which house these people that are more sympathetic to the Khalistan movement, as like enemies of the state, and they view Canada as like housing enemies of the state of India. So that's why
Like Turkey with Kurdish militants living in like European nations.
kind of. And it's not to like run defense for the Khalistan movement. They have done some really bad things in India. They have hurt a lot of civilians as well. So again, whenever I talk about these sorts of like separatist movements, whether it be the LTTE, whether it be the Khalistan movement, it's always about understanding that, yeah, we're not running defense for these separatist movements whatsoever, but we're understanding the material condition. Hold on, I'm going to get to the Sikh genocide after that. Hold on 1 second, chat. But basically, when you're talking about these militant groups, you have to understand, like, they obviously, I mean, you do, but like a lot of these separatist groups come from particular places, and Sikhs were not particularly treated well back then. They're particularly not treated well right now. It's the reason that the sentiment in Punjab has largely gone down in comparison to what it used to be was basically
They successfully squashed it, it seems. Like the Indian government, through violent measures, were able to successfully squash like the most militant elements of separatism in the country. And then the rest of them seeked refuge and safe harbor in Commonwealth countries. And by and large, it seems like there is not enough momentum at that point inside of India.
It's not just the fact that they quashed the movement violently. I mean, it's like that also led to one chatter mentioned the fact that after the Operation Blue Star happened, Indira Gandhi's bodyguards, who were all Sikh, basically assassinated her. They shot her. And so that in turn created a backlash in 1984 in Delhi, where Hindus actually started attacking Sikhs. I don't remember the death count for that, but basically it was basically a mob lynching / pogrom against Sikhs. And so some of the people that fled India at that time to Canada were also victims of that Sikh genocide as well. So, or of that Sikh pogrom, anti-Sikh pogrom as well. So you're right. So basically what happened was India quashed this movement back in 1984. And Indira Gandhi is absolutely a ghoul. She also locked up several politicians that are now in power today. So India was actually quite authoritarian under Indira Gandhi. It was the Congress Party has done a lot of damage, not as much as like the BJP wants to do, but like they've done a shit ton of damage. Yes. So the only real Steven Seagal brought up the 1984 anti-Sikh riots. This is a direct result of Operation Blue Star, and this is a direct result of basically the assassination of Indira Gandhi. So yeah, roughly 3,000 Sikhs were killed in Delhi, and that all of that had a basically that all stems from
The Indian
Khalistan
government says 3,350. The independent estimate is from 8,000 to 17,000 Sikhs were killed.
Yeah, as Nerd that was promised said, my small town has a Sikh community. My mom told me about how the Sikhs cut their hair and shaved their beards to hide their identity when Indira Gandhi was assassinated. The riots were horrible. Yes, there was an actual like, I don't mean to like underplay what happened, but like what happened after Indira Gandhi was assassinated was that the Sikhs knew that the Indian government was absolutely going to come for them. They knew that they were going to be the victims of ethno-religious pogroms right after. So like they knew for a fact that's going to happen. So it's like a decades long issue that India's had with Sikh people. And actually, you covered the farmers' protests. So the word Khalistani is so rooted. The Air India bombing carried out by Canadian Khalistanis. I don't know too much about that, but I can say this. So Khalistani has, as a word, has actually been used to address any particular Sikh that opposes the current establishment. So you covered the farmers' protests, right? And so the farmers' protests that happened in Punjab, all across like northern India, it happened through Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, so on and so forth, right? So Khalistani, like the Modi government actually used the word Khalistani to actually address those people as terrorists, because it's a way of basically labeling people as like, oh, you're a Sikh, therefore you're anti-Indian, you're anti-government. So it's a way of just labeling. It's a way of labeling them as terrorists.
Yeah,
It's very
they did
similar
that.
to, like,
They did that in the communist movement as well. Exactly. Like that was if I'm
they do that with so if you remotely help like Adivasis, like indigenous Indians, they'll call you a urban Naxal. They'll call you like a Naxalite, which again isn't to run defense for the Naxalites, because I have very mixed opinions of the Naxalites, as people who watch me know. But yeah, like they use like if you're a Muslim, they'll call you a jihadi. If you're a Sikh, they'll call you Khalistani. If you remotely help indigenous people, they will call you a Naxal. And then if you're a Dalit person, if you're a marginalized caste person, they'll just call you slurs.
cool.
No,
It's-
like I'm telling you, like I tried sharing like some Indian news stories in Hascord, and people just like lost their minds. They're like, "Oh my god, India is like this insane." It's like you don't even know the half of it. Like,
I only know, for the most part, anti-Muslim repression, which tracks with a lot of the things that you mentioned as far as like the purges against Sikh people, where it's always like just mass mobilization and like government sanctioned lynchings that
Right.
are that where the people who get involved in it rarely ever get any kind of criminal punishment whatsoever. Like
yeah, it's
anytime
not
anytime
just
things get
Muslims.
out of hand.
So I mentioned this earlier. Unless you're like a upper caste North Indian Brahmin, you're always going to be in the crosshairs of the government. So like a lot of hate crimes that happen in India, that don't really get talked about outside of India because it's such a quagmire of a topic is like caste-based violence, like violence against marginalized castes. That's something that doesn't get enough. Like like anti-Muslim hate crimes in India already don't get that much coverage in the West, but like anti-Dalit hate crimes, anti-Adivasi hate crimes, like marginalized caste hate crimes, like they get even less coverage because it is such a specific thing to like talk about. So it's like it's even like there are lots of like hate crimes. Like Manipur right now is currently on fire because the indigenous ethnic groups of Manipur in the northeast of India. I've been covering this for like about 3 months at this point. But basically like the indigenous groups of Manipur are being dispossessed they're being dispossessed of their native lands by the local BJP run government. And it's also like ethno-nationalism that is at the heart of it. So it's Meitei ethno-nationalism against the Kuki-Chin Zos that are being dispossessed of their land, right? So the idea is, so basically like if you belong to a minority, if you belong to a minority identity that the government can weaponize against you, they will do it. They absolutely will do it. Like I'm a South Indian. I'm from Tamil Nadu, right? There's a lot of shit that North Indians peddle about us because of a couple of reasons, like that the North Indian largely run government peddle about us. One is because of the Dravidian nationalism that Tamil Nadu like espouses against like the caste system and all of this like Hindutva nonsense, right? The second thing is like uh Tamil Nadu's like more nice, I guess, to Muslims and Christians than a lot of the northern states, where like those hate crimes that you see that happen towards Muslims and Christians in the northern states don't happen as much in like Tamil Nadu. Um, so basically, like, yeah, Indian government is fucked. India politics is super fucked. But yeah, I know we veered off of like the Khalistan movement for a little bit, but
Yeah.
yes.
So there's the Air India flight 182 that everyone wants you to bring up, but you said you don't have a lot of knowledge over that matter. It seems like they an Air India flight operating on the Montreal London.
A flight that was basically, sorry to cut you off. It was a flight that was basically flying from Montreal to Bombay. It was flying from Canada to Bombay, which is why they're bringing it up as well, because it's a Canada and India thing. And basically the perpetrators of it were the perpetrators of it were Babar Khalsa, which is another like they're a sort of specific like militant group that is a Khalistani separatist group. So Khalistan is not like one particular ethnic, it's not one particular movement. There are multiple different organizations that call themselves like Khalistani because for them Khalistan is but a goal. They're just interested in trying to establish that one state, basically.
Yeah. Okay, so they're like I don't know why the reason why people bring this up, but like, is that the justification for the assassination? That's like why I don't understand why people keep
a lot of
bringing
your
this up.
chatters are going to be like a lot of your chatters. I said this like I think Nerd that was promised said like this earlier, but like a lot of your chatters are basically libs and or conservatives, but you just didn't notice it until now because now you're covering and now you have me on because like I shit talk these guys all the time. Like I literally like.
I mean, I'm familiar with this. The same happens with Turkish people. Same happens with like Israeli people. Same happens with Americans as well. Every country, like I have a global audience, and people love watching me whenever I'm shitting on America, which is understandable. We're all united on that front, except for some liberal Americans who get very upset whenever I talk about foreign policy. If I talk about hogs in America and how fucking silly they are, everybody loves it. But the moment that like they are in the crosshairs as international hogs, which every country has, as I've talked about time and time again, all of a sudden they drop the pretense of like being a rugged socialist or a progressive of any sort and immediately become hogs themselves.
Hold on, there's a chatter I have to respond to. Hey, Hawk Zeno. Darnu pallu pudingi un sutula vechirvenda punda mavana.
What What just happened?
I just cursed at him. Don't worry about it.
Okay. But it seems is this like is this one of the major justifications as to why India's tried to try to claim that like all of the Khalistani people in that movement was like even if they're tangentially involved or even if they're sick, they're like terrorists? Is this like the major act of violence that they point to beyond like the prime minister assassination?
Yeah, so they'll point to stuff like this. Like they'll point to stuff like this to justify like, oh yeah, what India did is correct in terms of like the assassination of the guy, or like they'll be like, what is it? They'll be like what you're saying is absolutely correct. It's basically this is one of the reasons. Again, when I'm talking about all of this, I'm not
This guy keeps saying, what about the Hindu genocide that killed what 150,000 Hindus?
Sangi, hey. Yarani, hey.
What is he saying? He's saying that the Hindu genocide happened where 150,000 Hindus were genocided and it was not investigated at all.
Is he talking about the fucking? I think I know what he's talking. Is he talking about Kashmir?
Yeah, I think he's talking about Kashmir. Yeah.
Okay, so
there's
that's
no
a different
like I don't know where else
that I don't want to open now because I don't
know
think
what. Sorry, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, so I want to know what he's saying. I want to know what he's fucking talking about. I suspect he's talking about. The exodus of Kashmir Hindus, maybe.
Yes, he's talking about the Kashmir Hindu exodus. Okay, so there's a level of truth into the fact that yes, there were Kashmiri Hindus that lived in Kashmir, that were basically forcibly removed, partially by the Indian government in a sense again, I'm not too much knowledgeable on this, but yes, they were forcibly removed from Kashmir, and a lot of the stuff that the Hindu minority in Kashmir went through was atrocious. Like there were Islamist outfits that did like specifically target the Kashmiri Pandit minority. But the problem is that that thing is now weaponized by the current administration for all the atrocious shit that the Indian army does against the Muslims in Kashmir. So like, for example, like the Indian army will like literally murk a random ass like they'll literally murk a random ass like dad. And they'll use like human shields as well. So they'll use human shields.
They do Israel style propaganda over their actions. It seems like, I mean, Indian Twitter, at least as far as I've seen it, is like very much aligned with like far right Israeli nationalists.
Oh yeah, they will suck up to Israeli like far right nationalists and shit. Like they'll suck up to far right Israeli Zionists. The silly thing is that the Israeli Zionists and then like turn up being like they end up being racist towards the Indians.
Yeah, because the Indians are brown.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I've seen this as well. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, but there is like actually, so I did promise. So I did mention. I do want to mention one thing before. Like I don't know how long you want to have me on here, but there is a sort of thing that I did want to talk about. And maybe you can have me on for like a different discussion on this like later. It's not necessarily tangentially related to India. Yes. Show me Yomi. Khalistani reminds me of the Tamil Tigers. Great fucking transition. Absolutely transition. Okay. So in basically, I talk about this all the time on my channel because this actually gets zero coverage from anyone. You may have heard about this, but this is a sort of ongoing ethnic cleansing that is ethnic cleansing genocide that's been happening to the Tamils in Sri Lanka for a very long time. And so to set up the context, there are two, it's not India, it's just slightly off of India. It's a different country, chat. But there are Tamils that live in India, and then there are also Tamils in Sri Lanka. And basically, the long story short is that for the past 80 some odd years, the Sinhalese nationalist government has been doing massive pogroms against the Tamils for a very long time. And there's actually like, there's a a movie called, I mean, yeah, you'd have to like, this is way too much to get into, but like I actually went on FD's show and talked about this a little bit. I went on FD's like podcast because he was actually supposed to be on this stream where I had on like a former UN human rights counselor on my show to talk about like Willy Vaikal, which was in May 18th, where basically people remember like the massacres that the Sri Lankan government did to the Tamils of the north. But I just wanted to mention that because I figured like the Sri Lanka Communist Party is leading the polls. Uh-oh. Don't get me started on them. But yeah, that's another thing I just wanted to mention a little bit. If you ever want to have me on to like just talk about like what's going on in Sri Lanka, nothing. This guy is full of shit. Nothing of the sort is happening in Sri Lanka. I found the Sinhalese nationalists. Suck my dick. Suck my dick, chatter. Suck my fucking dick. Make sure to fucking schedule another appointment with your mom.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
So you want to talk about the what's going on in Sri Lanka as well at a separate point?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. We can do that. But so what is your overall, let's summarize it before I move on to some other stuff. What's your overall perspective on, it seems like from where I'm standing, it seems like the Khalistani separatist movement is not as popular.
It's not.
It might get outsized coverage in the Western world due to a lot of people who are purged or sought refuge in Commonwealth nations as a consequence of the aftermath of Operation Blue Point and purges against Sikh people in India. So there is definitely, it seems like there's more. I say Blue Point, Blue Star. Sorry, Blue Point is the video game developer.
Operation Blue Star, yeah.
Yeah. So there is more momentum, or at least like more commentary revolving around it. And as far as this goes, it seems like it was maybe created with a genuine purpose originally, but hasn't necessarily maintained momentum either due to internal pressure and successful purges, or due to, I don't know, some sort of lack of momentum. And now the Indian government, it seems, is utilizing this assassination, just like many other minority purges that they either turn turn a blind eye to as another political pawn for themselves in order to galvanize BJP's position and embolden nationalist forces, Hindu nationalist forces. Is that a correct assessment?
Yeah, so I think, so as far as what I think is going to come of this, I don't think anything major is going to come of this. I think ultimately if I don't think anything serious, I think the thing is like India is again too much of a wild card for anyone to like do anything about it. And again, like there are Western interests in India right now. For example, Apple is like trying to open new factories in India. That's why a lot like across India, you have like a lot of like anti-labor laws that are being passed. Like for example, recently in my home state, they tried to pass a law basically lengthening work hours to 12 hours. But it got slapped down by basically, like it was basically pressured by the Communist Party of my state, VCK, the Dalit Panthers, and it was also resisted by the Congress Party. So there are like American initiatives that would eventually, like, if they tried to do anything about this, that would eventually stifle it. I think the Indian government is absolutely going to try, like, and like, this is an issue that both like Congress supporters and BJP supporters can rally behind, because Congress supporters are absolutely not like fans of the Khalistani movement either. And
yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like it's a perfect enemy. Because it's a perfect action against the enemy that unites all forces, even if they themselves are in opposition to the BJP. right? Isn't that what it is?
Yeah, it's the perfect way of doing it. I don't know whether the BJP. I think the BJP has long since realized that their stability in power is like not guaranteed, because like right now, I think the Congress has done like recently. Congress has just taken back Karnataka, which was the South Indian state, which was their entry point into the South, right? So with Congress taking back Karnataka, BJP's they're completely locked out of the South for the time being, right? So the BJP is going to grasp as many straws as possible. They're going to grasp at many straws to like keep their position in power, and I think this is one of those rallying points. Whether that will be entirely effective or not is totally up in the air right now. I don't think this is going like I think I don't think that they're going to necessarily nab any Congress voters from here with this particular issue. I think what I think in 2024 what's going to happen is, because this new coalition is like there's a new India coalition that's fighting the BJP. It's called India, INDIA. That's the name of the coalition. I think ultimately I think this is going to fizzle out. I ultimately over time. I think people are going to forget this in like the next like 2 weeks or so, probably. I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be a massive um I don't think it's going to be I think it's ultimately going to evolve to be a nothing burger, partially because like I don't think anyone involved in Indian interests is going to want to jeopardize their current interest in India right now. That's generally like my take on this.
I do like this guy said your assumption is India was responsible for the assassination of the dude, which is highly unlikely. When like people in positions in the Indian government have been like, yeah, we killed him and it was awesome and we should do more of it. Actually, I thought that was like well established. Like it's not like is India even saying that they didn't do it?
I think India is basically swatting down the accusations right now. Like they're trying to do damage control.
Oh, they're denying it?
Yeah, some of them are denying it. Absolutely. They're saying like the last time I checked, there's a Wire article that I sent. But they basically said they're basically currently saying that the establishment is denying the attack at the moment.
Oh, okay. The Canadian intelligence warned Nijar before the assassination, pretty much confirmed.
Exactly. Yeah. It is like the government actually denied it. Like the Indian government is like denying it as much as possible right now. Yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, Fiery Ice, absolutely based person. Okay, I hate saying the word based. I don't know why that word.
Yeah, it was BJP supporters.
I hate it so much. It like
I agree. It's
motherfuckers say based so much. They got me saying it. I fucking hate it. But yeah, Fiery Ice is absolutely, he's an awesome chatter. He's absolutely right. This is one of those things that like
the BJP supporters are saying we didn't do it, but if we did, it was epic.
Yes, literally, it's one of those. It's like it's one of those things that the BJP would literally say. Like BJP supporters would literally say.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Where can people find you?
You can find me at ArunAnnow twitch.tv/ArunAnnow, ArunAnnow. Yo, thanks for having me on. Big fan of yours. Absolutely. We got to do this more times.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
All right.
Thanks.
And on that note, we're going to continue on with our coverage. Everyone needs to calm the fuck down. Okay. I didn't know that there was a Indian Hasanabi out there, and now I know. That was awesome. For decades, whenever a Sikh spoke up against human rights violations, the violence, the crimes committed against them by the Indian state, they were given labels of violent terrorists. The word Khalistan was weaponized against them. I mean, I've seen it. That's the first time I learned about it was during the communist farmers protest in India, where the same Indian hogs were running the talking points in here, saying that like these guys are actually Khalistani terrorists. Bro, was talking to that guy for you like Sneeko talking to those kids? I mean, not really. I get what that chatter's trying to say. Like, my influence and impact is apparent. I mean, it is definitely significantly better and more positive. So as the Indian, the parallels between American hogs and Indian hogs are almost 1-to-1. My friend,